And now it's time. I said and now I said it's time. And now for something completely machinima. And now for something completely machinima. And now for something almost entirely, very precisely, but just not exclusively, sort of adjacently, kind of approximately, complete mesh enigma. And now for something completely machinima.
Hello and welcome to And Now for Something Completely Machinima, podcast about machinima, virtual production, and this week, AI slop. No, I'm just kidding. I'm your host, Phil Rice, and I'm with my co-hosts, Tracy Harwood.
Hello.
And Damian Valentine.
Hello there.
All joking aside, we do have a AI generated video as our pick this week. And Tracy, tell us about it.
Sure. Okay, so this week it's called We Vlogged the Fall of the Empire, and it's a complete season of shorts by a creator called Galactic Archives, and it was released in the middle of June, 17th of June. Now, this popped up on my feed a few weeks ago. Well, literally just a couple of weeks, probably when it first came out, in fact. And it seems to have been a channel for just about a month, amazingly, but has already achieved over 1.5 million views and has posted 17 videos. Now, there's no clue who has created this that I can actually find at the moment. I have absolutely no idea who Galactic Archives actually is. It's AI generated and an example, really, of what I've called my cinema, MAI cinema, where the internet is basically the ludic environment for the creative work, and the tools are the generative AIs we've been talking about for absolutely months now. It's quite a different proposition to the Glurons that we reviewed a few weeks back by NeuralViz, which I think is still one of the most interesting AI-generated works we've seen. And that's primarily because this one is based on the Star Wars canon, which, of course, you know, there's millions of pieces of content, wikis, fan pages, all sorts of stuff all over the web. So you can easily see how that material could be used to generate some different types of content, of which I think this is an example. Now, what's impressed me with this, far from it being slop, although you might disagree, is actually how good it is. And yes, it's a bit glitchy and it's got loads of anachronisms in it. But to me, that doesn't really seem to matter too much. It's about these two stormtroopers, Sam and Jeff, as they stumble from one galactic disaster to the next. And, you know, I think from the description, it's everything from Endor Nights to Jabba's palace to Cloud City hideouts and pretty much everything in between, from what I understand. So why doesn't it matter that there are glitches in this? Well, I think that's for a number of reasons. One is that canon is pretty well known, and another is that it's comedy. And because it's short, along the lines of, do you remember the Fast Show series of sketches from, what would that be, the 90s? Or there'd be an American equivalent, Phil. I'm sure that you're going to tell us about that in a bit. But you don't actually need more in this sort of rubbery scenery to get the drift of what's happening. And it's in that sense, it reminded me a little bit of Space 1999. However, there is some consistency that you can draw upon. The characters are roughly the same. Yes, the costumes are a little bit different, but they are generally of things that you recognize as being stormtroopers, and the voices are consistent throughout. It's a very abridged story told in these short clips, just a few seconds long each. But it's stitched together in such a way that the style comes over as being a deliberate choice. It's a vlog. So it's very much a meme about a genre of creators on YouTube who have this kind of dumbass, let's do this, whatever may happen to us kind of approach to talking to their audience through a camera. And you can see that, they can fall off a cliff with a camera up in front. They just don't care. It's that kind of approach. Now, obviously, it's been made using a range of different genAI tools, or I assume that, although it doesn't actually make it clear which those tools are. I'm guessing it's going to be VO because that's the one that's doing the rounds at the moment, and this is of a period in time. It's kind of hot on YouTube right now. And I guess in some ways then it's also making a bit of a meme out of the tool set as well. I would have thought it was using 11 labs for voices. Don't really know, but that's a distinct possibility. But I would say clearly here, the current limitations of the animation genAIs, it's that set of limitations that lend themselves to this kind of vlogging aesthetic, which I think is especially interesting. So they've got this sort of, they've got it as a creative limitation, but it's also a framework through which they're doing the writing. The voice is interesting as well because I don't know if it is, but it sounded very Matt Damon-like, and it sounded and looked and had the aesthetic style of what you saw in the Martian film. I don't know if that's where where the whole sort of idea comes from, but it has that kind of look and feel about it too. In fact, there's a whole troupe of these creators generating these Stormtrooper vlogs, which are seemingly quite in demand at the moment. There's another dominant one which is being picked up in the media, and that's being called Stormtrooper Vlogs. This one is by, as I said, Galactic Archives, different group of folks. I assume a different group of folks, that is. There's apparently an entire Instagram set of pages and channels that have hundreds of thousands of followers already, even though most of them are less than a month old. And that's on the back of an 11-minute long Star Wars fan film that was made using AIs that kicked off this massive debate earlier in the year on how genAIs would be used in the film industry. And also Industrial Light and Magic's release of a Star Wars mood board, what they call a mood board, by a guy called Landis Fields, which was shown as part of a TED Talk back in May, which I'll put on the show notes so you can kind of see how these big studios are thinking about how these tools might be integrated into their workflow. What I feel is a little different with this particular series, however, is the attitude the creator has towards its audience, which is not at all what one expects from the industry itself. They're not good at this sort of stuff. The description asks for comments from viewers about what the creators should do next with the characters. So it's actually about audience participation too, right down to the inclusion of a character that they can include in the series. And that's a super smart sort of way to integrate film and internet affordances into a creative process, speeding up the creative process with these kind of generative tools. In a way, I think, perhaps in a less obvious way, it's kind of similar to what NeuralViz has done as well. But these guys are more overt with the way that they actually engage than NeuralViz has been. So NeuralViz has just responded to the way the audience has accepted the content and enjoyed it, and then riffed off how the audience has fed back about it. This set of folks, girls, whatever, are actually calling for, what do you want us to do next? So it's a different level of interaction, I think. And as far as I can tell, they've got quite good music with this as well. I don't know whether that music was especially commissioned for this. It's certainly made use of somebody that has a track record with Star Wars cinematic um, themed music. A guy called Samuel Kim, um, which I think is also very interesting. So, yeah, I'm not sure I'd describe it as slop overall. But what did you think?
Samuel Kim produces lots of. He takes established Star Wars themes and does his own sort of take on it, and they're
Mm,
all really good. And
mm.
sometimes there's several pieces of music he's done several different versions of as his own skills progress. I don't know if he does commissioned work, but he does have it. So if you want to use his work, he has this sort of process. You can contact him and um, ask permission. And then my understanding is he's usually pretty good at saying yes.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Um, so the glitches between the helmets, I was thinking about that, and I think it's probably because in the films you got so many different variations of the white Stormtrooper armor. You got two sets of clone troopers, very similar to Stormtroopers, but the helmets and the armor is different between those two. Then you've got the original Imperial Stormtroopers from the original films, and then in the sequel trilogy, you got the First Order Stormtroopers, which are basically they wanted their own design, so they didn't have to pay royalties to the original designer of the Stormtrooper armor because Lucasfilm doesn't actually own the rights for this original Stormtrooper design. The person who designed the costume still has the rights for it and can sell Stormtrooper merchandise without Disney having any say in it. So they created this First Order Stormtroopers so they didn't have to deal with that. And then you got the various other variants of Stormtrooper armor. There's the Scout Troopers, and then there's Stormtroopers for different environments, like the Snow Troopers and on Hearth
There's a
and things
lot
like
of
that.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's good for selling toys because you get different variations. So my theory is that the AI software has seen all of these, but it doesn't know to keep them consistent
Yeah.
between the cutscenes. So there's one bit where I thought that looks like part of a First Order Stormtrooper helmet there, and then there's a bit where on the nose section there's a black
Right.
line, which
The
is
black
part of
line.
the visor. That's the Clone Trooper piece that's somehow on there, and you have to really know your Stormtrooper armor to be able to pick out where each one's from. But I think that's why it gets glitchy. It's just because the software doesn't know to stick to one variant, and it just kind of blends them.
Yeah.
Is there a variant, Damien, just to not to sidetrack it, but is there a variant of Stormtrooper helmet that has no shaded eye area? Because that was a very common glitch throughout it, is that the sometimes the trooper would turn his head and all of a sudden you can see the human
Yeah.
face through the eye holes,
And
and then it would
sometimes the
come
eyes
back.
were going in different
And
directions.
other than maybe a situation in one of the Star Wars, maybe in
Oh,
one of the sequels where somebody's helmet got broken, other than that, you really don't see the human face in there. I was curious where that might we think that might be coming from.
in
It was very
this
common.
in the Ahsoka TV show, they got the zombie stormtroopers, and one of them gets hit in the face, and it kind of shatters part of the armor, and you can see like the undead person inside. So
Okay.
maybe it's part of that.
Hmm.
There are no real answers to that because that they only appeared in the very last episode, so we have to wait till season two to really
Ah,
understand what it was. But they're
right.
pretty obviously brought back to life as zombies, but they can still shoot and act like stormtroopers. So I don't really know where that's going to go, but we'll have to see. But that's probably where this AI picked that one from.
Hmm.
Or there's a couple of times where Darth Vader's helmet gets smashed as well, and you can see his face inside. But
Hmm.
I don't know if that would have worked because he's obviously Darth Vader and not the Stormtrooper.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
I think the Ahsoka one's probably more accurate. Oh, well, actually, there was a book written about 10, 15 years ago that had it's called Death Troopers, and it was also about zombies. And the picture on the front is a Stormtrooper helmet, and the part of the helmet's missing. And I don't think there's a face underneath, but there's definitely a big hole in it. As they kind of briefly experimented with horror, which I did not finish the book. I didn't really enjoy it that much.
Yeah.
but yeah, that's probably where that came from. Something I struggle with, and it's not this video's in particular's fault, but there's so much AI generated content now that I start watching a video and I think, if this is AI, I'm just going to stop watching it because it's just too much. And it kind of brings back the days of every other machinima that was released was a Halo red versus blue clone.
Ah, yeah. Hmm.
And you watch one of those, like, you start watching, and think, oh, this is just someone trying to copy red versus blue, and just switch it off. Um, so I do struggle with that with AI videos these days. But I did really enjoy I thought it was a really good concept having the Stormtroopers doing the vlog, and I really enjoyed the humor. Um, but I think I'd enjoyed it more if it had been done with Blender or Unreal or iClone.
Mm,
I
yeah.
think that would be a good step forward for the series. So if the creators of this are watching, have a look at those tools, because you can do some really good stuff with them. And you'll also not have the glitching between the helmets because you just have the one model that you bring in.
Yeah, you'd have consistency for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, one thing that one reason why an AI tool was particularly well suited for this is because of the sprawling change of locations that happened. You imagine if you were going to do this in Blender or Unreal Engine or something, even if you were dealing with matte paintings to cover some of it, that's an awful lot of locations, you know? Like it's one thing we've seen a Stormtrooper uh, comedy sketch one, Damien, that you gave us a couple years back, where it was two Stormtroopers, I think, in an elevator
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm,
going up, and that's a controlled environment, so you can pull it off, you know. But to the effort that would be involved in recreating, I mean, there's more than a dozen locations in here and varied locations,
mm,
mm,
indoor, outdoor, all different types of planets and terrain and action going on. So I get it why this would be alluring to do with AI, because it's comparatively, it's not even in the same category of effort, you know.
that's
So I
true.
agree with you that it would be better. Um, and I think it, I think all of this could be done with that tech that you're talking about. Completely, it could be, but the effort to payback ratio is probably gets really challenging for that, you know, where it's not a where it's I mean, they went through all these different locations. Is one of the things that I liked about this the most was um, the choice of locations that they had these vlogging stormtroopers go through,
Mm,
which is a particularly gratifying journey if you know the franchise, because almost everything's recognizable, and so it puts them right in the middle of major events, starting early with putting them on Gorman during the uprising.
yeah,
That was very savvy, because that is one of the most celebrated scenes in all of the Star Wars made for TV stuff that's ever been. That episode of Andor was critically and audience just huge, hugely celebrated, a very impactful moment. So to throw them right in the middle of that early on, that was smart.
yeah.
And then they took them through a journey of just all these, you know, uh, I'm trying to think of what it reminds me of. Maybe the montage from Forrest Gump.
Mm,
If you remember Forrest Gump, where all of a sudden
mm.
he's there shaking hands with Nixon, or he's there with President Kennedy, and
Yeah.
it's just flash of putting him in all these historical situations and inserting him in there. And this kind of was like that kind of feel. And those explorations are a lot of fun. They really are. So I enjoyed that part of it. The glitchiness didn't bother me, but I think that's because I could tell almost immediately it was AI generated. So I've just kind of been conditioned to just expect that, you know. And I didn't fixate on it. Um, as AI generated stuff goes, this is definitely in the top category of quality. Um, Glitches notwithstanding, it's really well made. I would guess this is a mid-journey thing, but I'm not sure. But I would guess that's the main tool for the video, because I don't think anybody else
I think it's
gets
VO.
video. Is it
VO.
VO?
I believe so.
They
That's what
must be using the paid version then, because the free version
on
couldn't
I
do this.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Because they're calling for give us give us your dosh kind of thing. Get a coffee, Ko-fi or whatever we call it,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
because of the number of credits that are being used in the
Yeah.
creative
This would
process.
consume a lot. Yeah,
Mm,
there's a lot of trial and error. With any
mm,
AI tool, there's a lot of trial and error, but with what I've experimented with VO, that's just
yeah.
as much the case. It's not any better at getting it done quickly because of the number of iterations you have to go through to get it right. So that is an effort that you can't deny that was involved in a piece like this to ultimately get this set of scenes took a lot of a different kind of effort than it is to build it out yourself, you know. So the voices are definitely AI generated,
Mm,
and I would assume it's 11 Labs, but there are some competitors out there that can do audience emotion very well and stuff. So, but I suspect that it's 11 Labs, and I expect it's fairly recent 11 Labs.
mm,
Um, there's something about the tonality of the voice of the vloggers, and I don't know how to quantify what it is, but I can tell, like I can identify it. And there's another series of vlogs that's going around right now that is a Sasquatch, and it's a Sasquatch doing these vlogs into his phone as he's going through forests and these different campsites or different situations or whatever. And that too, you can just tell there's something about the voice that's familiar, but not in the same way that like a celebrity voice would be familiar, you know?
mm.
Not in the same way that like you can instantly tell when a voice is Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger or
Did you not hear Matt Damon in that?
I didn't pick up on that, but I think that there's an element of it that first of all there's a consistency to whatever that is that holds them together. There's a consistency through it, but it's there is something synthetic about it, and that's not necessarily criticism. I mean, I use those when I need to as well, but I think that in most of the scenes, the actual performance, not just the tonality, but the actual performance is also AI driven because there's certain ways that the inflection comes out that are just
Mm.
not quite human, not quite. There's an uncanny valley element to the voice, the way it's performed. That's just not quite right. And I found myself at varying points having two competing thoughts. One is that's good AI voice. For AI voice, that's good. And at the same time, feeling, man, how good could this have been if they'd just hired two voice actors?
Mm.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I mean, really. And they don't even, with Stormtroopers, they don't even have to sound like anyone. You don't need like Damien's incredible impressionist that does Han Solo and some other voices for him. You don't even need that. They could sound like anybody, and it would work. They just need to be able to perform, you know? So I think it would have been a better film with true human voices and the part of me as a filmmaker that was really leaning hard that way was based on the fact that you don't even have to worry about lip sync.
Right, yeah.
You know, you've got the Halo helmet effect going on, saving you all that trouble. So why not just do human voices, you know?
There's a
You
reason.
didn't.
Have the AI generate the voices and then give those to your voice actor and say, emulate this timing, basically. You don't even have to get it syllable for syllable, but here's what AI did with it. Now give it your magic touch, and it would have been a better film.
But you
That whole
didn't
thing.
do that with NeuralViz. You didn't say that with NeuralViz because that was AI generated as well.
No, it was my performance. It was not an AI generated performance. It was my voice performed and put through a filter to change the voice. That's different. That's not what they did in this. What I'm saying is that the actual articulation is not a human's.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's what's different. It's a fine line, maybe, you know,
Oh no, it's a good
but
point. It's a good point.
yeah, yeah. And that's the only way that I've used AI voice for any of for Ralph and Chuck and for Odad as well. That when there's an AI voice, one AI voice, I'm performing with myself basically, and the other one is through an AI filter. But the performances are mine, so I had a lot of control over the inflection the way things were pronounced and stuff like that. And sometimes AI would butcher a syllable a little bit, and you just have to rerun it and then, do some editing. So anyway, yeah, I'm what I'm critiquing is that I can tell that the performance was done by an AI. Like this is a text
I
to
understand what you're saying.
speech.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
Brilliant.
that's getting better and better every time these guys release updates, but it's just not quite there yet. And I don't know if it ever will have quite the magic touch of a human performance. It may get to the point where we won't know anymore, but I don't think that it will ever be as effective. And in this case, I wouldn't have even used 11 Labs at all. I mean, because you have to run for Stormtroopers to have the right sounding voice, you have to run them through a bunch of effects that crop off a bunch of frequencies anyway, which, by the way, they didn't do.
Mm.
I know the Stormtrooper voices, you mentioned that they had a Stormtrooper sound. They did, in terms of kind of general Midwestern male voice delivery, right? That's the voice of a Stormtrooper. But they didn't get the effects right at all. Like it's much more of a cropped down radio voice with a little bit of distortion added to it.
Got you.
It's not as severe a distortion as the Combine soldiers in Half-Life, but it's in that vein to get Stormtrooper voices right. You want to hear Stormtrooper voices sound right? Watch Damien's show. I don't know what your process is, but it works. Maybe your voice actor's doing that for you, or maybe you're doing it. I don't know, but it works.
So the guy that did the Stormtrooper voice, he actually has a Scout Trooper costume with a voice changer.
So he's using that?
So you put the helmet on, then record.
Oh, that's perfect. That takes care of it all. Yeah. If your voice actor didn't have that, you could look online, and I'm sure that somebody has done a tutorial of. If I found it for the Combine, you can surely find it for Stormtroopers, and they would give you exact EQ settings and any effects to do. You could do it in any digital audio workstation.
Yeah.
So they didn't do that here, but it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, he did it with the helmet on. They did it take without the helmet on, just in case the distortion through the one microphone to the other was too much. But it worked. Right. But I could have gone and found that tutorial quite easily.
Sure.
Brilliant.
So yeah, overall, I mean, I enjoyed the concept of this film a lot, and for the most part, I enjoyed the execution. I kind of end up, I think, in Damien's camp, whereas other than the aspect of scale of sets and variety of sets, I think that's an impediment. But other than that, this could have totally been done in Unreal Engine, or it could have been done really effectively in Unreal Engine. All the lighting and everything that's done here is totally doable in those tools.
And just in case the creators are listening and thinking it over, of course you do have to build the environment.
Yeah.
But once you built it, you can use it again.
You can reuse it. Yeah.
So
and if they're going to be doing a lot of Star Wars content, then those sets are going to be really valuable.
Yes. Yeah. So if you build like a small Mos Eisley set with some buildings in the desert around, obviously that's a very popular location if it's Star Wars, and you may want to use it again. You can do that, but you can also reuse it in a way it doesn't look like you're reusing the exact same location, because you can move your characters around the corner to the side of the building,
change up the angle. Yeah, absolutely.
Change the color of the lighting so it's a different time of day and stuff like that. You can do that really easily once you built the environment. And building the environment itself in iClone or Unreal, it's not that difficult either. You bring in the objects. There are plenty of 3D models for buildings, for Star Wars buildings out there that you can just download.
Lots and lots. Yeah.
Put them in. And they're all free, because people just create Star Wars stuff for free. So.
You actually helped me with that in my Heir to the Empire, a little satirical short.
Yeah.
Early on, I hit up Damien and says, "Hey, what do I do about sets?" And he pointed me to some collections and shared some assets with me. And I had a ton of fun building out, I don't know, kind of a Mos Eisley imitation of sorts, this big city. It's all individual placed buildings, like hundreds. It was like putting together a Lego set. It was a lot of fun. So,
and the best part about those Mos Eisley buildings is we've seen in other productions, Star Wars productions, that style of building is on many different planets. You might have to change the color so they don't look like they're built with sand. But in The Mandalorian, in those early episodes when they're on the planet Navarro, it's not a desert planet. It's very muddy, but the buildings look exactly like the Mos Eisley ones. They're just recolored. Yeah. So you can use these same objects for many different planets.
Absolutely. The other thing to keep in mind, this is a a no-brainer if you've ever done any creating of stuff like this before. But obviously, depending on how you're going to reuse the set, you technically only have to worry about building what the camera's going to see.
That's
You
it.
don't have to you don't have to build the whole planet of Dagobah to get yourself a swamp scene. You build what you need. So
Mm.
that was definitely a helpful approach. And because Heir to the Empire, my short, had a fair bit of jumping around to different environments, and yeah, the nice thing that kept that under control was knowing, okay, I know where I'm going to be shooting from, so this alley needs to look good from this direction, and who cares what's back here? So
That
that's
that
helpful.
that used to be my approach until I went to uh ray traced rendering with Omniverse,
Yeah.
and I put 3PO in, and he was so shiny you could see that there was nothing behind the camera reflecting on his
Oh,
head.
oh, that's hilarious.
So I then had to start building things behind the camera so that it would.
Yeah, you'd have to do that, or you'd have to load in some kind of a HDRI map that at
Yeah,
least got it, to look Coruscant-y or
yeah, exactly.
Tatooine-y or whatever. Right, right. That's
But you just
great.
had this. So I was looking at it. There's a big grey square where there's nothing behind it. Look, I know what that is, and so is everyone else who's going to be watching this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Anyway, yeah, really interesting pick, Tracy. Like I said, I've got mixed feelings about it, but as a fan of Star Wars, it was hard. I would have had to work really hard to not enjoy this.
Yeah,
It
likewise.
was a neat tour through scenes, and it's a trope. This type of thing has been done in other contexts before. The idea of inserting character, like I mentioned, inserting characters into the middle of these known situations and stuff. But it's been done before because it's entertaining. So yeah, it was fun. All right, well, that is our pick for this week. Commenters, let us know. Was this just AI slop? Or as I think we've all come to agree, was it elevated just a little bit more than that? I kind of used that tongue in cheek just to mess with Tracy anyway. So, but what do you think? Drop us a comment or drop us an email at talk@completelymachinima.com. My name is Phil Rice, and on behalf of my co-hosts, Damian and Tracy, have a great day. We'll see you next time.
Bye
So
bye.
say we all.